Headline news most affecting Chilliwack this week. As Chilliwack School Board presents their budget, Barry Neufeld presents another opinion. The Hope train station receiving a stay of execution as that drama continues. And if Harrison can have a fountain in a lagoon, why can't Abbotsford have a fountain in a lake? Also, the BC Hockey League pulling out of the Canadian Junior Hockey League. Our special guests this week include Robert Wilson of the brand new Bridal Vale Mountain Resort proposition. All right, Chilliwack, let's get started. And we start off with two stories that are breaking. The first one was Thursday morning around 8:30 in the morning after reports of a shooting. And this on Watson Road in a townhouse across the street from Watson Elementary. Now, chillTV has learned this was a murder or attempted murder-suicide. A woman is in very serious condition in hospital from gunshot wounds. The male has died from his wounds, and no other information being released by RCMP, although they are saying that if you have any information about this case or these two people, you are asked to contact police ASAP. The other is that we have a wildfire and Chilliwack firefighters working this off of Connor Road. This just after yesterday or Wednesday's fire. This was on Mount Whiteside as Agassiz Fire Department and Seabird Island were working that blaze. It is the season for wildfires. Now, COVID numbers in British Columbia are now averaging more than 1,000 new cases a day. This as the rollout of a vaccine is now available for anybody over the age of 55. Last week, a new case of the Brazilian variant was discovered at GW Graham School, where one student was sent home. Then this past Monday, an entire grade 11 chemistry class was sent into 14-day isolation due to the outbreak. For the record, I got my shot last week. It was Moderna. Didn't feel any different than when I had the shingle shot 4 years ago. My shoulder ached for a day. The Chilliwack school budget went under public review this past week. Now, it was actually passed by the board in late February in time for submission to the Ministry of Education. The public review was routine with no real online controversy. Meanwhile, controversial school trustee Barry Neufeld demanded that the Education Minister, Jennifer Whiteside, and local school board chair Willow Richelt both resign. Neufeld made those comments last weekend at a Vancouver rally supporting a father who had been held in jail after breaking a publication ban relating to his child's medical information. The child is transgender. The father has been protesting the transition in various media, in both public and private events. There's also a publication ban on the father's name. Neufeld remains defiant about Soji 123, calling that a dangerous experiment. Neufeld has been criticized and has been criticizing for his anti-LGBTQ stance and then asked to resign. This by both Whiteside and Neufeld. And then in ending his comment, he said, "One of us has to resign, Ms. Richelt. It ain't going to be me." He stated that Richelt has filed a civil claim against him. That is untrue. The civil lawsuit was filed against him by a Chilliwack resident, Peter Lang. Richelt merely provided a sworn affidavit to Lang's lawyers. And now Neufeld announced to the crowd that he has filed an anti-SLAPP claim against that lawsuit. Back in 2019, Jason Faulkner, the founder of the Bridal Falls Gondola Corporation and formerly with Sea to Sky, proposed a gondola plan that is still in the planning stage. It looked good on paper, although critics were concerned about the environmental impact. There is another rather grand idea. Even if it has solid footing, it's many years away from permits and public forums. Currently called the Bridal Vale Mountain Resort, it is billed as a new major all-season resort with 2 sightseeing gondolas and about 11,500 acres of mountain recreation terrain, and has been proposed for Chilliwack through an expression of interest filed recently with the Mountain Resorts branch of the Ministry of Forests, Lands, Natural Resource Operations, and Rural Development. Now, Now, chillTV spoke with Robert Wilson, the president of the Bridal Vales Mountain Resort, and that interview is coming up in just a few minutes' time. Interesting to note that Mr. Wilson said he had already had the support from local First Nations. Well, we received from Chiem First Nations, literally, as we were going to air, a statement, and it reads in part, in closing, and this is from Chief Andrew Victor of Chiem First Nation, we reject the BMVR as a project that no way represents the interests of Chiem First Nations. Again, we will have that interview in just a few minutes' time. While waiting for the BC Ombudsman to make a decision on the District of Hope, the Ministry of Transportation and Chilliwack First Nations, and the demolition of the Hope train station comes another twist. A stop work order on the demo. Richard Lindsay of the Provincial Heritage Branch and Heritage BC issued that stop work order. The Ministry of Forests, Lands and Natural Resources is part of this issuance. Now, this is in effect for 120 days, so basically the middle of August. This gives organizers who want to save the station more time to come up with a salvage plan. That announcement came at the same time the district decided to remove heritage status from the station, which passed the first two readings. A third vote will come after a public hearing in May. Now, on top of all that, we understand that more protests are planned for the next week or so. Public engagements were held this week as BC Housing is partnering with the Phoenix Drug and Alcohol Recovery and Education Society on a proposal to provide roughly 50 supportive homes and a 40-bed shelter for people experiencing homelessness in Chilliwack. This was a chosen location on Rowett and Trethewey, and it's noted for being ideal as for the shelter and supportive housing, as it is close to public transportation, clinics, grocery stores, and other services. This on the heels of the Portal Shelter, operated by Ruth and Naomi's. They received a 90-day TUP extension, not the 18 months that was first asked for, and this to house about 48 at-risk residents, many of whom are seniors. Now, the Portal has to shut down July the 15th. The Rowett property, though, ironically, is not going to be open until early next year. Chilliwack Tulips of the Festival returned this past weekend for the 2021 season, and yes, you can visit live. It's not virtual. They were forced to take the hiatus last year because of the pandemic, but they do have safety precautions in place, and this for the 15th annual edition. The fields are located the 41,000 block of Yale Road, just a few minutes away from Highway 1. Parking is free, but yes, you do have to get your tickets in advance online. In November of 2020, after heated debate, the Village of Harrison approved tax dollars for the fountain at Harrison Lagoon. That would help aerate the lagoon. Well, goose poop is goose poop. And the taxpayer expense would be over $100,000. Now, Abbotsford will have a similar fountain for Mill Lake with the same focus, to keep the water moving and to deal with the goose poop problem. Things are a little different here, though. In 2019, the City of Abbotsford established a Mill Lake Reserve Fund after receiving a commitment of a $1 million donation from an anonymous donor, but specifically for improvements to Mill Lake. Well, the first capital improvement, the $200,000, using these funds was authorized by City Council for an aeration fountain to improve the quality of the lake and for aesthetic additions to the city's premier park. Usually swag celebrating your favorite school comes out after the school's actually been opened and established. Imagine High thinks outside of the box, and until May the 15th, you can order everything from sweats to hoodies online. And the Arts and Tech School, well, that doesn't open until the fall. chillTV's News of the Week in conversation with Robert Wilson, who is the president of the Bridal Vale Mountain Resort, which is an interesting concept that we have been hearing about over the last few days in various media and social media. Robert, so correct me if I'm wrong, is this a ski resort only for Bridal Falls or Bridal Vale?
Yeah, I mean, it is the development of ultimately what we believe would be an all-destination ski resort. We're in our preliminary phase of it. We're working right now. We filed with the provincial government, and our next step is to work with First Nations to inform them and consult with them about the idea a development which would include two gondolas, two sightseeing gondolas, two villages, one of them being an alpine village, which would be absolutely stunning, and the development out of a all-season destination ski resort.
You're going to try and do something with a BMX track or mountain biking, as well as obviously something for the wintertime with skiing.
Yeah, the wintertime would be focused around the classic sort of winter activities, but in the summer we would have the recreational activities that have become popular in all destination resorts. We have ideas around doing the mountain biking and things of that nature. These are preliminary ideas. They're all ideas that we want to work with and engage with First Nations so we can consult with them about these ideas. So we want to be very respectful of the First Nations and the fact that it's their lands.
You bring that up because literally just before we went to air, Chillum First Nation Chief Andrew Victor and Melissa Godbout sent us something, in effect saying that they were taken by surprise at your proposal, and quote, they are, as we understood, involved with Cascade, Jason Faulkner and the Cascade Skyline Gondola project. So are you two now in competition with each other for various permits to get your specific project off the ground?
Yeah, there is a competition that's now been set up by the provincial government, and the provincial government wants to engage with both Jason and ourselves about what is the highest and best use for these lands. And so we've put forward, I mean, we've reached out to Chillum to have consultation with them. We haven't heard anything back yet. We've reached out, in fact, to 24 of the First Nations out in where the Stolo people are. And it's important for us to go through that consultation. At the same time, it's important for us to advise people and help educate them to what we want to do, which is quite different from what Jason's proposing, and that's that we want to develop out actually two sightseeing gondolas and the ability to have an anchor facility at the end of the valley that will engage people and draw people internationally from a tourism perspective.
Now, a lot of people, when they think Bridal Falls, they think of, obviously, the waterfall. Is that exactly where it's going to be, or is it further down? How would you get to it off of Highway 1?
Yeah, you would come off, literally, it would take about 2 minutes to come off Highway 1. There's different transportation issues that we would have to work out because with increased activity and traffic, we'd want to make sure that was all engineered properly. But it is out roughly in that area. It's if you know where the Falls Golf Course is, if you're at the Falls Golf Course and you looked up at the mountains, we'd be on the opposite side, opposite face of those mountains.
Okay. Any word, and I know Jason and Chillum with Cascade have talked with FERD, with the mayor, Ken Popoff, with council. Have you been able to have any preliminary discussions with any of those people?
Yes, we have reached out to those people as well. And, when Jason first reached out to the marketplace to say what he wanted to do, our proposal wasn't on the table at the same time. So it's not like people looked at the two and said, oh, we like this idea better than that idea. We've just now launched what we want to do, but our first step with that launching process was to work first with First Nations. After we'd put our proposal through to the provincial government, we then reached out to 24 of the nations in out where the Stolo people are.
Would you be in conflict or having to bump up against the expansion of the Trans Mountain pipeline, the twinning of the pipeline, or is that on the other side of the freeway?
I don't know enough about that project I don't think these projects would conflict at all.
Okay, I mean, literally physically bouncing off of each other, there would be no conflict?
I don't believe so. That's not an area that I've got any expertise in, to be honest, so I don't think so.
Okay. When it comes to permits and such, obviously there's going to be public hearings in that. What are you looking at for a timeline? Is this 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road? Because obviously you just can't get those permits right off the bat.
No, there's a process that you have to go through. It's a process that these types of projects go through. So the first step of the project is filing what's called an expression of interest, or EOI, which we did with the provincial government. And the provincial government looks at projects like this, and after you file your expression, and they look at it from a number of metrics. They look at it from a financial metric, from a environmental metric, from a feasibility metric. And we jumped all of those hurdles. And so our expression of interest was accepted by the provincial government in January of this year. And then the next step of that process was to engage the local communities. So the local communities are just literally now finding out about what we're doing. Our first step was to reach out to First Nations, but at the same time we have had consultation with the mayor of Chilliwack. And we're just now literally getting our message out there. Our press release from a couple of days ago is the first time that we've been able to come out and start telling our story.
Right now, it looks very impressive, and this will be the first of many a conversation. Robert Wilson, a big thank you for joining us, and you are always welcome to talk about it here.
Well, thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Robert Wilson, the president of Bridal Vale Mountain Resort, and you're watching chillTV's News of the Week. chillTV Sports, the BC Hockey League, pulling the plug on their affiliation with the Canadian Junior Hockey League. However, they do remain with Hockey Canada and BC Hockey. What this all means remains vague, as Commissioner Chris Hebb is not taking media requests to answer the obvious question: what happens to a national title, the Centennial Cup? The Chiefs won that title here at home in 2018. Now, the Canadian Junior Hockey League president, Brent Lads, told Global, and I quote, "The BCHL notified us that they were withdrawing from the CJHL, and it's still unfortunate because they are a charter member and a pretty high-profile group. The BC Hockey League has been part of the Canadian League since its inception in 1993 and is widely considered one of Canada's top junior A leagues, having won 14 national titles. I think they have some operational concepts that they want to undertake and feel that maybe acting in sort of a more independent capacity, well, they can do that." The BC Hockey League is trying to complete their current short season, which they are still hoping for a full season next year. Next year actually would be their 60th. Meanwhile, with the National Hockey League, most of the Vancouver Canucks were under COVID protocol after the mass outbreak in that club. They were planning on being back on the ice this week. The NHL plans for the team to finish their current season. Well, we now understand that the game against the Edmonton Oilers that was scheduled for Friday has been postponed, and there's still no word if the National Hockey League will allow the game on Saturday between Toronto as well as Vancouver. Now, one of the players affected, Adam Gaudette, has been traded to the Chicago Blackhawks. Meanwhile, JT Miller, still with the Canucks, said that in a meeting with the National Hockey League Players Association, they have expressed their concerns that they do not feel safe going back on the ice this soon after recovering from COVID. chillTV weather, time to hang up the hanging baskets. Sunshine for the next few days, highs in the mid-20s. If you'd like to participate in reporting news in Chilliwack and you have a story you think we should know about, send us a note to news@chilltv.ca. We'd love to hear from you. That's the news this week. I'm Don Lehn.